Card King, here I come. Hello, sports fans, sports collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com, your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program a legendary former pro boxer. He is known as the Bayonne Bleeder, the original real-life Rocky Balboa. I welcome to the program Chuck Wepner. Chuck, honor to have you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I'm honored to be on the show.
Now, Chuck, reading your career, you had an amazing life, which we will get to. But let's talk about your early years growing up in Bayonne, New Jersey, a tough neighborhood. I bet it was considered. That's where you learned how to fight. You learned how to fight in the streets. Is that correct?
Yep, that was it. We lived in the projects in them days, and there was 12 buildings within a 4-block radius, and you had to fight every day almost because there was 2 or 3 different gangs. I never belonged to a gang, but I whacked out a few guys from the gangs. That's how you get to be the toughest guy in the neighborhood. So I was fighting since I was like 13 years old. And then I went in the Marine Corps at 17, and I was there until I was 20. So, yeah, I had a good life, but it was a life full of scraps and fights, and in them days you had to prove yourself almost every day.
Yeah, I bet. Now, mid-60s, I guess you're about in your mid-20s, 25 years old, and you turned as a pro fighter. So how did you get your start in becoming, in the big leagues as a pro boxer?
Well, in them days I was a good basketball player. I played varsity basketball for high school and everything, but didn't make any money. So I started boxing a little bit. I went in the amateurs, and in 1965 I won the New York Golden Glove, the East Coast Nationals. That was New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. I won that in 65 at the Garden, and I was a white guy, so there were some opportunities to make some money because most of the really good fighters are black. So I turned pro in 1965.
1965. You also made history, at Madison Square Garden with that fight because from what I understand, you were the only man in the state of Jersey to ever do that, right?
Yep, I was the only man in the state of Jersey at that time until this day. The only man from New Jersey ever to win the New York and East Coast Nationals. Yeah, I won 5 in a row, and I got some people interested in me. And because I was never subsidized in my career. The only time in my career that I fought full-time was when I trained for Muhammad Ali. I had Don King as my promoter, and he let me train full-time. The rest of the times I used to work nights and go home, get a few hours sleep, and then go to the gym and work out, and then come back to work again. So it was hard, but, it wound up paying off in the long run.
And I wanted to ask you, I've been seeing, I saw some images of your early years fighting, and one thing that stood out, Chuck. I mean, when you fought, you really bled a lot. Is that, that's how you got your nickname, huh?
Yep, I got the nickname the Bayonne Bleeder. Well, I was never down or out in 147 amateur and pro fights, but I had 328 stitches over my eyes, and 9 broken noses, and my left eardrum was shattered twice. And it was just it was a different era, and you had real fighters. We were called fighters then, not boxers. We didn't dance around and throw jabs, and especially with my style. My manager used to say, "Why don't you move around? You're tall, you got a good jab." But I like to just go right in and mix it up. So I used to draw a lot of good crowds because the people in them days liked that kind of fighting. And to this day, if you get a guy that's a brawler, I always call myself a brawler or a fighter, and that's what I was. I wasn't a fancy Dan, and I had about half my fight, a little better than half my fight by knockout, but that wasn't a great ratio. So I used to more or less just, brawl a lot and stay on top of guys, make them fight, and usually by the third or fourth round you find out who really was a fighter. Because by 3 or 4 rounds, if you weren't in shape and a tough guy, you'd be sucking wind, you'd be tired. So that's the way I fought. That's why people liked it when it came to the fights.
We're talking with legendary boxer Chuck Wepner, who's the real-life Rocky Balboa. He's with us this morning. And Chuck, I mean, your boxing career lasted from 64 to about 78. And I was just going over some of your past fights. I didn't know in 69 you fought the great George Foreman.
Yes, I did. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I fought George in the Garden. It was a 10-10 and 3 10-round bouts. And George was just coming up. He was a young guy. And our strategy against him was to push him into the later rounds, and maybe he'd tire out. We'd have a chance either knocking him out or beating him. But in the third round, George was a wild swinging kid then. In the meantime, since then, George and I are great friends. We know each other, met each other, a couple of dinners and everything. But anyway, he threw a wide hook that night in the third round. And I actually saw it coming because he was a wide-arm puncher. And but I pulled away. I tried to move to the right, and he just caught me and cut me, gave me a 2-inch cut over my left thigh, and it bled a lot. And my manager, when I got back to the corner, my manager was Al Braverman, who was probably the best cut man in the world at the time. He was a former Jewish army guy who fought in the army and everything, and he knew everybody. And But I got back to the corner, and he said to me, Chuck, this is a bad cut. I can't work on this. He says, it was 2 inches long, and it was about a half an inch wide. And I was bleeding a lot. The referee came in and looked, and he says, I'm not letting him come out. The fight's over. So they stopped at the end of the third round. And I was disappointed because I figured if I could beat George Foreman, he was the up-and-coming heir apparent to the throne, but I didn't get a chance, and it bled a lot. And when I got downstairs, I realized that they did the right thing because it took 71 stitches inside and out. It took a lot of stitches, one cut.
That's amazing. I mean, did it ever go through your mind? I mean, here you are, your late 20s, that this could end my career.
Not really. The fight that was really a tough one at my end of my career was against Sonny Liston in 1969. I fought him. He had just lost the title to Ali, and I fought him in the Jersey City Armory, and I was doing good. The fight was close, and but he had this big left hook, and he kept hitting me with the damn thing because I was right there. There's a guy I should have boxed because he was a brawler. He was my style. And, after that fight, I was actually in a state of shock for about 24 hours. Dr. Sikowski, our family doctor here, came over to the house twice, and I was running 104 fever, and he said to my wife at the time, he said, you better be careful. I'd like to send him to the hospital, and I refused to go. I'm not going to no hospital. So by the third day, though, I was recovering, and I actually thought about quitting. I said, you know what? I had won 12 in a row starting my career, and that fight really took it out of me. But I returned to the ring, and I started doing better, and then I went on a 9-bout winning streak against some of the better fighters in the area, and 2 of the top 10 guys in the world, and I beat the former champion of the world, Ernie Terrell, in Atlantic City, and I decided, to stick with it, and I wound up getting a shot.
Man, so because of your toughness, I mean, you were gaining a lot of notoriety, a lot of exposure. You were a tough brawler. So is that how it led to the Ali fight?
Well, I had won 9 in a row, and I just come off the big win over Manuel Ramos, who was one of the top 3 or 4 guys in the world. I beat him in a garden in the main event. And George Foreman was coming up at the time, like I said, but he was still just starting out. So they were looking for a contender to fight Ali, and he had just knocked out a couple of guys, all black guys, and they were looking for a white guy, to be honest with you, looking for the white hope. And they figured that that fight would sell, a white contender against Muhammad Ali, and they were right. It did very well. A lot of the writers are saying, oh, it's a mismatch, Ali's too good, Wepner won't last 5 rounds, but I wound up going 15 rounds and had him down in the 9th round. And, like Don King said, his quote to me after the fight was, he says, I love you, Chuck, and you turned my water into wine. He always had a quick was saying or two, and he was good for me. He was a good fight. He was a good promoter, and he knew everybody. Don King was the top promoter in the world at the time, and after that fight, I got a couple other ones. But by then, I was very partying. Stallone had the movie part for me in the movie, but I didn't do well in reading the part because I was out for 2 days before with a couple of bimbos. And they weren't really bimbos. They were nice girls. We just partied for 2 days. And then I had to go to Philadelphia and read for the part. And I didn't do well. So I didn't get the parts, but they cut it completely out. It was going to be Ching Weber. I have the script right there, and there was a lot of lines in the script, and I didn't practice or read the script. I just figured I'd just go up there and automatically get the part, and I didn't. So, hey, I wasn't an actor anyway.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the Rocky movie, but about Muhammad Ali. I mean, going into that fight, I mean, how did you prepare? How did you train for that fight?
Well, I trained full time. That was the biggest thing. I went up to the mountains, and I just, my forte in boxing was just my condition. I could always take a great punch. I was always in great condition because I used to play basketball, and I was always an athlete. I figured maybe if Ali would look past me and take the fight more lightly than he should have, I could catch up to him in the early rounds. And I trained hard, and it was fun. It was really fun to just do nothing but train, eat at certain times, have sparring partners, and I was ready for the fight. But unfortunately, I fought Muhammad Ali, who was at that time the greatest fighter in the world.
I mean, Chuck, you lasted 15 rounds with the great Ali, right? 15 rounds, right?
Yep. I answered the bell for the 15. Come out, they stopped it with only 19 seconds to go. He threw a right hand, and it bounced off my left shoulder and hit me in the side of the face. And I was so damn tired by then. 15 rounds alone. I'd never gone 15 before. And I stumbled against the ropes and went down and pulled myself up, but Tony Perez stopped the fight with 19 seconds to go, and they declared it a TKO.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. And you also knocked down Ali. Yeah,
I had him down in the 9th round. I hit him with a right hand. It was a good punch. I hit him with a right hand under the heart. He threw a jab. He had a habit of throwing this jab and then leaving it out there and push it around, I hit you 2 or 3 times, but this time I was prepared, and I just ducked under it and hit him with a good right hand. You couldn't even hear it in the ring. It was a good punch, but he went down, and he got up, and he was pissed off. He started talking that black shit there, you mother effer, stuff like that, he says, I got you now, but he didn't have me, and I didn't have him. He was just too good for me, the plain truth. Because that night, in the shape I was in, I probably could have beat almost anybody else in the world except for him.
Man, so 76. This Rocky movie is planning to come out. Did you get word
from one of his co-producers, Stallone's co-producers, and said, Chuck, he's this exact a guy named Tommy Howe. I'm pretty sure was his name, Hawe, And he said, Chuck, first of all, I want to congratulate you on a great fight, with Ali. And, Sly Stallone, Sylvester Stallone, is writing a movie. And I had heard of Stallone, of course, because he was a bit part actor in the movies, in some movies coming up, usually movies about kids and guys wearing leather jackets and stuff like that. But he says Stallone is planning on writing a movie, and you're the inspiration. He went to see the fight, and he came back, and he was just unmoored by the fact that he was going to write this movie. And he said, I just want to let you know that we are writing it, and when it comes out, we'd like to invite you to the premiere, which was great.
Man, so what was your feeling? Do you feel that he portrayed you accurately in the movie?
Well, yeah, semi-accurately, I would say. Early in my career, I used to do favors for friends of mine, people that owed money. And, of course, by that time, I had a little bit of a reputation as you might say a collector or a wise guy with the wise guys. And in them days, in the state of New Jersey, we had three of the largest families, mob families. We had the Genovese family, and we had the Colombo family, and it was the kind of place where it was wide open here in New Jersey. There was a lot of gangs, a lot of what's called people who you could work for if you wanted to. And I chose to work for a guy who was not only a loan shark, but was one of the biggest guys. But he was a Joe Pesci type, if you know what I mean. Joe Pesci in the movies would rather shoot you and beat you up than collect your money, And his name was John DiGilio. And they found up finding him in the Newark Bay with 2 bullets in the back of his head and a body bag. So his own people took him out. But John was a good guy, good guy to me. I like John, but in them days, if you want to make a couple extra bucks, you work for the right people.
Yeah, and of course, the Apollo Creed was supposed to be Muhammad Ali, right?
He played a great part. Yeah, I met Apollo a couple of times since the last time at Muhammad Ali's funeral, because there was about 7 or 8 of us that were invited to his funeral, and actually the guys that fought him, and Apollo Creed who played him, and Billy Crystal was there, and we had a lot of people. He was down in Kentucky, so I drove down to Kentucky from Jersey, and stayed there for 2 days. And we sent him off the way he deserved to be sent off as a champion, because he was one of the greatest fighters that ever lived.
Yeah, no question. I mean, now, also looking at your career, Chuck, just a remarkable career. You also fought Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was after I had fought Ali. So I was a hot item then, and they offered me a mixed martial arts. By the way, I'm also a black belt, second-degree knee down, so I took that up after I retired. But, they offered me to fight with Andre the Giant. And I thought it'd be a good gimmick thing, fighter versus wrestler. And, excuse me. And so I fought him in Shea Stadium. That same night, Ali fought Antonio Inoki, the karate and judo champion of the world. He fought him in Tokyo, but that didn't go very well. They weren't happy with that, but they were happy with my fight with Andre because it was colorful. He threw me out of the ring, big deal. For that much money, $50,000, you could throw me off a building. That's a lot of money in them days. Anyway, after that fight, it went well, and a few months later, they wanted to switch. They wanted to make Ali with Andre the Giant and have me fight Antonio Inoki in Japan. So they flew me out to Japan, Mr. Shima, who was a very wealthy man at that time, paid for everything. We went out first class, and I stayed in a penthouse for 16 days, and they played it up big out there in Japan. I fought him.
Man, so Chuck, after going back to the Ali fight, so all right, so you go 15 rounds with Ali. Did you ever,
Right.
a couple of years later, did you ever feel in your mind, I want a rematch against Ali?
Well, we actually called for a rematch with Ali right then and there, because here I'd gone 15 with him, nobody else ever had. I had him down and everything. But he wound up getting hurt in training, and that sold it a little bit. And then I took a couple of bouts, and I got beaten one of them. I forget exactly what bout that was, but I missed my chance. But there was 2 or 3 young guys coming up who wanted to fight him, and he wound up fighting. I know what it was. He wound up fighting Kenny Norton, and he got beat. Kenny Norton decisioned him, and so there went the chance for a rematch. And Kenny wound up having head injuries from an accident he was in. He supposedly ran his Testarossa. He was driving a Testarossa at the time and hit a wall. And he was lucky to be alive. And that was after he fought Ali and beat him, so he held the title. So that was my chance to get a rematch, and it never came to fruition.
Man, I have like a couple of minutes left with you. So, what do you think of the sport today?
I don't think the heavyweight division is not really like it is. They got a guy named Fury who's improved as a fighter, and he's a legitimate champion. But there's nobody here locally like there used to be. There used to be 2 or 3 good heavyweights around, and they were good fighters. It's not that way anymore.
No, not that way. I mean, in the 1980s, even the 90s, with the rise of Tyson, I mean, the sport was so popular.
Was awesome.
Were you a fan of Tyson's?
He's a good friend of mine. I still am. I talk to Mike at least 3 or 4 times a year. Oh yeah, he calls me from California. He's out there. He's got a pot farm. He makes money with that, and he's a good friend of a guy named Mario Costa, who owns had in the past owns a lot of fighters. And Mario is a good friend of his, and every time he calls Mario, he puts him through on a 3-way conversation. And I talk to Mike. He's a dear friend of mine. I love him.
Man, so Tyson, we all know he kind of changed the sport. I mean, he was some brawler.
But 18 in a row by knockout. First 18 fights he had, he knocked out 18 guys. He lost to Buster Douglas, and that sort of threw him off track, and he went a little crazy. But Buster Douglas was a very good fighter. He was 30 wins and 3 losses when he fought Tyson, and he was no slouch. And he caught Mike not in the best of shape, and he wound up knocking him out.
You think Tyson could have went up against Ali and knocked him down?
I think Tyson in his prime, before he had the problems, could have fought anybody and beat anybody. He a tremendous puncher. Short, he fought out of a low crouch and threw that big hook, and he could punch. He would have had a chance of beating Ali, But Ali in his prime, early in his career, I don't think anybody could have beat him. He was just too fast, had lightning fast hands, and he was very good to me. We became dear friends after the fight, and I was just a great Ali fan too, great fighter. Same thing with Foreman. There was 3 or 4 guys. George, when he came back in his comeback, was throwing shorter punches, and I think George was a better fighter the second time around.
Man, and what about like Buster Douglas? I mean, you don't have these fighters anymore. You really don't.
No, there's not too many guys in heavyweight. The littler guys, the smaller weight guys, are the better fighters now. And but no big heavyweights anymore. That except for this Fury, who's the champion, isn't a bad fighter. He could have fought in our era because he started out. He was almost 300 pounds, and right now he weighs 243 or 245, something like that. He lost a lot of weight, and he's a pretty good heavyweight right now.
And in your opinion, who's the greatest fighter of all time?
I'd have 3 or 4 guys. Willie Pep was great fighter. Willie Pep, Money. The kid was undefeated, 50-0. He's even though he's not a brawler type, he's a great fighter. Ali, of course, would be in there. But Money.
Marciano, Sugar Ray Robinson, would you put them there?
Yeah, Marciano, you put there. You got to remember, Rocky was only 188 pounds when he was champion of the world. Tremendous puncher, but he would have had a hard time these days with some of these bigger heavyweights. Because they would have sucked the jab out and moved with him if they were fought there. Same thing with Ali. They would have had a tough time with him. But Rocky Marciano definitely was one of the 3 or 4 greatest heavyweights that ever lived.
Man, well, so I know you do some signings. Where can we catch you? You going to be doing any autograph signings coming up?
I just did one in Lebanon, New Jersey, about 2 weeks ago, and I do maybe 3 or 4 a year. I tell you the truth, I won't do 15-minute signings anymore. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah. So I do some, but I have a good job. I'm with a liquor company, Allied, and I don't need it anymore. Besides, right now I'm going to be 85 in another couple of months.
Well, God bless you, man. I mean, you sound great. You don't know. It's such an honor. I can't believe I'm speaking to the real Rocky Balboa.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you are.
Well, Chuck, listen, honor. Wish you and your family happy holiday season, all right? You take care of yourself.
I will. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
You just heard from the real-life Rocky Balboa, the legendary former pro boxer, Chuck Wepner. Until next week, happy collecting to all.